Hello and welcome back to Alyena's Kitchen, where today we're going to be making a Mediterranean meal. We're going to be including kale falafel, tabouli, as well as a homemade tahini sauce that's going to be full of greens and a little bit spicy. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to start with is making our kale falafel. If you're not a huge fan of kale, feel free to not add this in. But I personally love it and I feel like it adds that little extra boost to my falafel. So to start with, I have chopped 2.5 cups of fresh kale and I'm just going to add it to my food processor while I make a mess all around it. To that, I'm also going to add about half of a medium-sized white onion, and I'm going to actually just process up all my vegetables first, just so everything gets fully combined and there's no big chunks of kale left over. So then I have 3 tablespoons of cilantro that I've chopped, as well as 3 tablespoons of parsley. And then last thing I'm going to add in here is my garlic. I've pressed about 4 cloves of garlic today, and these were pretty big cloves because I love garlic, but if you're not a huge fan, you can always add less. Alright, and so I'm just going to blend this together so that everything is combined. Okay, so once all your greens are finely blended up, we can add in our chickpeas. So today I have 3 cups of chickpeas and I'm just using canned chickpeas. So what I did is I drained out all the water and then I also rinsed them before I'm adding them in. And then to this, I'm also going to start adding my tahini. So today I just have 2 tablespoons of tahini and 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And then I have some spices. So I have a 4th teaspoon of some dried oregano, half a teaspoon of paprika, give it that spice, a little kick. And then I also have 1 teaspoon of coriander and 2 teaspoons of cumin. That was a mouthful. And then the last thing I'm going to want to add, well, second to last thing, is my oat flour. If you're not gluten-free, you can just use normal flour. And you're going to want to use anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons. This will help give it that texture to stick together. So one thing I noticed when I was making my falafels, it didn't really apply to the ones that were oven baked, but for the ones that were deep fried, I noticed they did not have enough flour in the mixture because they all fell apart. So I ended up having to put it all back together, add about a few more tablespoons of flour to it, and then they came together beautifully and fried wonderfully. I did just realize, so if you're watching this video from the beginning, add a bit more flour if you're deep frying them. And then the last thing I'm going to add is about half a teaspoon of salt and about a 4th teaspoon of pepper. Alright, and here we have it. And I'm just going to quickly pulse this together. You don't want it to be too smooth. You still want to have that texture of the chickpeas, so you don't really want to over blend this mixture. That's delicious. I feel like the flavors are just perfect. So what I'm going to do is just put this in another bowl, and I'm actually going to leave it in the fridge for about an hour. It does help the flavors come together even more, and it's also a lot easier for when you're shaping them, especially when you're going to be frying them. Okay, so now I have rolled out all of my falafels to be fried as well as to be baked. And for the ones that are going to be baked, I have set my oven to 350 degrees and I'm going to bake them for about 20 to 25 minutes. And about 15 minutes in, I am going to want to flip them and make sure they have that nice golden brown on the bottom. All right, I'm going to pop these in the oven. Okay, so we're now at the point where we're going to be frying our falafels. And the one thing with frying them is the temperature is quite important. you want it to be anywhere from 330 degrees to 350 because you want to make sure that they're getting cooked all the way through, not just on the outsides. And when I am going to be cooking my falafels, they usually will take about 5 minutes. So the next step in our meal that I'm making is a spiced green tahini sauce. This is great to pour over or dip your falafel in, and it's super easy to make. So let's do it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to add in my food processor is 3 cloves of garlic, which I've just crushed, as well as 3/4 cup of chopped parsley and 3/4 cup of chopped cilantro. And then the next thing I'm going to add is about 1 teaspoon of cumin and 1 teaspoon of salt. Also, if you guys have fenugreek, they don't sell it at my supermarket, so I just am omitting it today. But if you do have this, add about 1 teaspoon. And now what I'm gonna do is just blend this all together. Now that all of our greens are fully blended together, I'm just gonna scrape down the sides real quick. Now what I'm going to add in is 1 cup of tahini. Make sure I get every last drop. And then I also have a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And I'm just gonna blend everything together. The last thing I have here is about a 3/4 cup of water. I'm just using my tahini cup that I had because any tahini that didn't get in here will. And I'm just gonna slowly drizzle this in as this is blending. Okay, I'm just gonna scrape down the sides and then give it one more final blend. That is good. Okay, so here I have my finished beautiful tahini sauce. It has the perfect color and texture. It has a very similar texture, I would say, to sour cream. So if yours doesn't have this, feel free to add a little bit more water. Okay, we have been cooking all day and we've reached our final step for our recipe, our homemade tabouli salad. For me, I personally prefer my tabouli to be grain-free, but if you'd like to add quinoa or traditionally they add bulgur wheat, feel free to do so. But today, it's just gonna be veggies, so let's do it. I have here is 2 bunches of parsley, which I've chopped up very finely. And then I also have 1 long English cucumber that I've chopped quite finely as well, that I'm gonna add in. And then I have 3 whole tomatoes, and then I also took a handful of just cherry tomatoes, just because I find that they have a bit more crunch. And then I also have 4 green onions, which I've chopped really finely. And then the last veggie we're gonna add in is fresh mint that I picked actually from my garden. And I picked about 15 leaves, and I minced them up really finely, and I'm gonna just add that in. And I have a lot stuck to my fingers now. Okay, and then for dressing, it's very simple. I just have 3 tablespoons of olive oil. If you would like a little bit more, sometimes people will add 4 tablespoons. This one's just up to you. And then also I have 3 to 4 tablespoons of lemon juice that's freshly squeezed. And then the last thing I'm gonna add is a nice dash or pretty big pinch of salt. You can always add more to taste. And then give this a big stir. I need a spoon. So now I'm just gonna stir this all together. At this point, if you were adding quinoa or bulgur, this is when you'd wanna add it in. Also, it's really nice to set your tabouli in the fridge for about a half hour before it's served, because it just really absorbs all the juice of the lemon. Well, it's been a long day of cooking and we've reached the best part of the day, actually getting to eat our meal. We have our tabouli salad, our different types of falafel, both baked and fried, and our green tahini sauce. Thank you so much for watching, and please let me know what you think of our Mediterranean meal. And if you liked it, please share it with a friend. Thank you guys, and I will see you next time.